everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Help for HGTV. Today we have Ashely on with us, and she is going to talk to us about a topic that is rarely talked about because it is rare. Ashely, can you start by telling us how old you are and when you were diagnosed with Huntington's disease?
Okay, I'm 20. I was diagnosed with JoHD last December, a couple weeks before Christmas.
Yeah. And the reason why we're doing this show is because you're an adult. You are a 20, almost 21-year-old adult.
Yep.
And diagnosed with JHD. And so we rarely get to talk to someone that has been diagnosed with JHD, but is a adult living a very adult life. Thank you for doing this for us.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Katie said, it's so unusual. And so I think your advocacy and you bringing awareness to this will make people feel like they're not alone, right? So prior to being tested, did you notice any symptoms? And if you did notice any symptoms, can you describe what those were like, what they felt like?
So I feel like I noticed lots of balancing issues at first and stuff getting harder, like picking things up, especially with like my fingers and stuff, and constantly forgetting things. And I would put it in the back of my head because I didn't want to acknowledge it. Maybe I was paranoid. I didn't want to accept that this was most likely the truth about me.
So you noticed some things, but didn't want to like associate them to
Yes.
the possibilities.
Yes.
Being an adult living with juvenile Huntington's disease, what do you feel like the hardest thing for you to be able to navigate has been so far?
It's just been so hard being JOHD adult and not having many other people that are around my age that can understand. It was so hard hearing about my diagnosis, and I feel like I was being shot in the heart. All my future plans, I wanted to get married and have babies. I had to drop out of college because they weren't working very well, my accommodations. It was hard to give up my car and sell it because that was my last chance of some sort of freedom. I did not want to hurt anyone. I hate having to tell people beforehand that I have the disease. It's so awkward. I did apply for disability, so we're hoping it gets approved.
Have relationships changed?
I just given up on dating. I don't know. I just feel like there's no point because if I don't want to burden anybody with me, so my mom already has to do most of the stuff that I don't want to feel like too many people's burdens.
Sweet Ashely. We actually have been talking a lot about that lately from the perspective of a caregiver. I would take my family members who have been diagnosed with HD the way they are every single day for as long as I can have them, than not have them at all. And I appreciate you being so vulnerable and talking about that, because I think across the board, people who are at risk, people who have been diagnosed but don't have symptoms yet, like even they talk about their concerns and their worries about dating and feeling like a burden and things of that nature. But I don't know that we've heard it from the perspective of somebody who's been diagnosed with JOHD. But I really would hope that you wouldn't give up, and that not that you go out seeking it, but that you keep your heart open and your mind open to the possibilities. You mentioned how your mom does a lot of things for you.
Yeah.
Can you maybe go into detail about that? Like, how has JOHD changed your daily activities?
So I used to live by myself in college, and now I can't do that because some things are really hard for me to do. It's hard to put my clothes on now, which is embarrassing. And sometimes I need help. I hate asking for help because I feel like that's one more thing I can't remove from the list of things I can do. I know that it is going to be worse, and I'm scared. I also have trouble walking around, especially long distances. I get too tired and my legs get really painful.
Thank you for sharing that, because it's hard to be a young adult with so many changes, especially when it comes to your independence.
And I think we have to remember too, Ashely was incredibly athletic, cheerleader, got a cheerleading scholarship to go to college. She had this amazing sense of athleticism. Being able to cheer like you did at the level you did took a lot of energy. And like you were saying, now it's hard for me to even walk long distances. When you would cheer from sun up to sundown, the way you were at that time. And that was
Yeah.
not that long ago. On a public impact level, have you seen like have people been bullying or hard on you for things that you could not help?
Yeah. Yes, especially when I used to work at a bar and I didn't know I had JHD at that time. And so I was walking funny, I guess, with my gait is bigger, I guess is what they call it. And people would make fun of me for the way I was walking. I didn't know why. I thought I was walking like a normal person. They were like, why do you walk so funny? And people still ask me that now, and I don't want to go into it and explain just huge things. And people are like, oh, it's science. I don't want to explain it to every single person. It's just hard, I guess.
It's a new diagnosis, right? You just were
Yes.
diagnosed. It's
Yes,
for you to have to sit and explain. You're processing this yourself.
exactly.
Why should you have to help the whole world process it? You're still trying to process it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that this happened prior to diagnosis, meaning I guess if it were to have happened afterwards, then maybe that person would have felt a little guilty beyond a human level. It doesn't seem kind anyway. But on top of it, having a diagnosis like JoHD, it's something that could put something behind you saying, wow, look at you making fun of someone who has this diagnosis. But maybe she'll see this or he will see this. So that's also something we can think about.
Or hope for.
Yes.
Maybe empathy is important. But one thing, so I know a lot has changed in your life, and we've talked about the negative changes, right? Driving, having to no longer go to school, having a hard time walking long distances, having to process this diagnosis and what this means for your life. But the one thing we have also seen is some beautiful things that you've gone through in just a very short period of time. How is something you're going through that's so hard? First of all, let's talk about some of those things, like you being baptized. Let's talk about your travels a little bit. Also, I would like to know how you found strength and what advice you would give for a young person your age. So let's start with the positive things you've been doing.
It really was not an easy thing to. It was hard for me to wrap my mind around what was happening to me. There's a lot of crying and struggling and screaming, if I am to be honest. I was scared of the future and how my body would change in an instant. I found that when you reach out to people and find your support, I can finally realize I'm not alone. All my friends and family are so helpful to me. Because getting baptized was a huge step in my faith, I pretty much grew up with HD because my dad had been symptomatic since I was born, and he was an amazing dad. I know he didn't want to give this disease, but that means I get to see him sooner, and it's God's will. I want to help others understand that they're not alone in this difficult time. There will be people who want to help you and talk to you. I get my strength through God because He's my resting place. I find my strength through family and friends who encourage me.
And I'm that you have such an amazing family, Ashely, your mom, oh my goodness, and your dad and your brother and your friends and your extended community in church and HD. You got an army behind you, sister. And I know that doesn't make this go away, but you'll never be alone through it.
Yeah, that's a very important piece. Excited to continue to hear you tell more bits and pieces of your journey, because I think you have a lot to say and a lot to put out there in the world and to let the community know about the ways that you plan to advocate and be a part of the community, because you've talked about it so much and we're looking forward to that.
Yeah. And people, I remember my brother has cystic fibrosis, and he was like, I want to be an advocate and start speaking for the disease. And I told him, it's going to be the hardest thing you'll ever do in life, because college, marriage, kids, all that, knock that out. Advocacy is you taking yourself to your most vulnerable place and exposing it to the world. And the change you make in people's lives and what you do changes people's perspective, people's way of thinking, makes them feel not alone, but also the world that have a greater understanding. But that doesn't make it to where you are stripped down to your most vulnerable self.
Yeah.
And so thank you for doing that today.
Yeah.
Because that's not easy what you just did. I guarantee you, you're going to reach someone that needed this and needed to know they're not alone, because we need more support for our young people. We just do. We just do. We have conferences every couple months, a couple a year. There's a couple different things out there, but there's just not enough support for our young kids, our young people living with Huntington's on a weekly, even a weekly basis. There has to be more out there, and we need to do a better job at that. And your voice is going to make a lot of people change their thought of what needs to actually happen for our young people living with HD. We love you, Ashely. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this for us. And let's bring you on more often, and let's see what else we can do to help
Okay.
young
I
people.
love that.
Yeah. All right, my dear. You guys don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel below and ring the bell for notifications when more videos like this come out. Until next time.